Archangel Michael says, "Tonight carries a hush that your heart will recognize before your mind does, a sacred quiet like the air just before rain that cleanses the streets and returns the sky to itself. In that hush, a voice you ache for moves toward you like a warm lantern through fog, steady and sure, unafraid of the shadows that once frightened you. Your name rises inside it, not as a sound alone, but as a remembrance wrapped in light. The veil feels thinner than silk, like a sheer curtain stirring in an open window night. You sense footsteps that do not press the floorboards, you sense an embrace that does not bend your shoulders, and yet you feel held in a way no mortal arms have held you. Heaven chooses this hour because you are ready to hear what love could not say while time still measured breaths. The one who calls you belongs to your story like dawn belongs to morning. Their love never dispersed into distance, it unfolded into a brighter room and asked permission to visit you again with everything that could not fit in a goodbye. They bring a truth that neither punishes nor wounds, a truth that opens and waters the dry places of your soul. This is the truth they place in your hands like a letter finally delivered. They did not leave you as a lesson or a loss, they crossed over as a passage that would one day show you how your spirit is stronger than every ending you ever feared. The grief you carry is not a weight to bury you, it is the seed of a tenderness that will feed you all your days. They tell you that love does not compete with time, it redefines it. Seconds and years yield to something gentler, a rhythm that beats in the same time whether you are here or there. When you speak their name tonight, the rhythm answers from the other side with a warmth that turns your chest into a sanctuary. They remember the way you laughed when you forgot to be careful and the way your eyes tried to be brave when the world turned loud. They remember the little promises that seemed small then and enormous now, like the promise to keep the porch light on or the promise to be the last to let go. They keep their promise still, because love on the other side does not end, it keeps. They confess the worry they carried for you, a worry born from how much they wanted to protect you from harm. They confess they were not perfect at it and that heaven did not demand perfection to welcome them, heaven asked only if their love was real. It was real enough to return tonight with enough strength to lift your chin. They were there in the room on the day you almost gave up, unseen as wind on the back of your neck. They were there when you looked up at a gray sky and a single bird cut across the clouds like a signature you could not read then. They were there when you said you could not go on, and yet somehow your feet did not stop moving. They remember the last words you shared, the ones that felt too small for what you felt inside. They tell you that nothing was incomplete, nothing was missed, because love overhears every sentence we are too shy to say. Your silence was a language they understood, because heaven hears what hearts whisper even when lips refuse. They bring you the truth about what hurt you. The betrayal that bruised your trust, the distance that seemed to mock your devotion, the delays that rehearsed your doubt, all of it is being rearranged by hands more patient than your pain. What was stolen is not reclaimed by vengeance, it is reclaimed by a harvest only heaven can grow. They reveal that you are not behind schedule. You are precisely where healing meets readiness and where readiness meets courage. The door you feared was locked is only heavy, and strength rises in you now to turn its handle. They speak of the future as if it is already unfolding, because in their view the road curves into bright certainty. A conversation is coming that restores your dignity without shaming anyone, because restoration does not need a stage. An opportunity is approaching that matches your true worth, and you will feel the exactness of it as if it were tailored to your first breath. They show you how to listen tonight. Sit where your heart can breathe, let your shoulders unclench the way shorelines relax at low tide, and place your hands where you can feel your own pulse promise you that you are alive for a reason. Their voice will not shout, it will arrive like the glow under a door, and you will know by the peace it carries that it is not your imagination. They tell you to forgive yourself for the moments when you were not your best. They tell you to bless the version of you that made choices from fear, because that version guarded you until wisdom could guide you. Nothing is wasted when compassion is the lens you use to review your past. They want you to remember the little signs they have sent. The song that found you at the exact moment you needed its courage, the coin that flashed at your feet like a wink, the scent in the hallway that belonged to a season now gone. They want you to remember so that when tonight's sign arrives, your heart recognizes the author. They assure you that your tears tonight will not be a breakdown, they will be a blessing leaving your eyes. Each tear warms as it falls because it carries a memory it no longer needs to haunt you. Tears are not proof of weakness in this hour, they are proof that love succeeded in reaching you. They tell you that you do not owe the past an argument. Let the old story outgrow its need to be right, and let your new story learn to be kind. You do not need to win the former battle when peace has already won the war. They speak the name of the person you miss and lay it like a flower on your chest. They speak the places you shared and the little ordinary moments that turned sacred because you were together. They return those memories to you not as knives but as keys that open rooms you thought were forever closed. They tell you a truth about the night. Night is not an enemy to overcome, night is a companion that teaches your eyes how to see in softer ways. What looks absent in bright light appears in moonlight, and that is why they ask you to sit beneath this hour like a friend. They whisper courage into the room the way a candle lights more than its own wick. Courage does not erase fear, it invites love to stand beside it until fear stands down. You will not be asked to pretend, you will be invited to proceed. They speak about the apology you never received and the one you wish you could give. Some apologies are delivered by small miracles rather than mouths, and the universe arranges meetings that words could not arrange. You will awaken one morning soon and realize an old knot has untied itself in your sleep. They tell you that a blessing is already in motion with your name etched into its arrival. This blessing has no rival because it does not compete with anyone else's portion. It suits you the way sunlight suits a window that was always meant to face east. They draw attention to your breath, because breath is the thread that ties body to soul. Draw it in slowly as if you were inhaling the first air after a rainfall, and feel how it steadies your hands without asking permission from your worry. Every calm breath signals that you are safe to hear more. They admit they would have stayed if staying had been the plan, but the plan called for a light they could only find by crossing. They do not defend this, they bless it, because their blessing opens routes your mind could not map. They remind you that departure is not desertion when love continues to arrive. They speak of a promise you made to them. You promised to keep going, and you kept that promise even on trembling days that forgot how to spell courage. They saw every step and kept a quiet ledger made of grateful light. They mention the one habit that is ready to fall from your life without forcing. The habit of shrinking yourself so others feel taller is done now, dropped like a coat that no longer fits the weather of your becoming. You will notice how your voice naturally rounds into its true tone and how your yes sounds less apologetic. They turn your attention to someone who needs your gentleness. You will know them by the way their smile looks borrowed and the way their eyes linger a fraction too long on the floor. Offer them a presence you learned from heaven, a presence that holds without fixing and accompanies without judging. They reveal the truth about a fear you barely admit. You worry that joy will punish you for trusting it, that good fortune will embarrass you by leaving. Joy is not a prankster in your story, joy is a faithful gardener that knows how to return after every winter. They ask you to imagine the next months as a garden path. You do not sprint through a garden, you walk, and you notice, and you breathe. What grows for you grows at a pace that protects you from the very rush that used to burn you. They tell you that the love you lost in one form has multiplied in another. You will find it in laughter that returns unannounced and in mornings that feel like clean paper and in eyes that look at you the way open doors look at sunlight. You will find it in the relief of knowing you are not unfinished, you are unfolding. They ask you to release the guilt about the day you were not there, or the moment you arrived late, or the words you chose when your throat was full. Guilt was a bridge but not a home, and you have crossed it. Let it remain behind you like a road you used and no longer need to revisit. They say your kindness has been noted in places you cannot see. The universe echoes kindness the way canyons return calls, and the echo comes back as opportunity and unexpected help and generous timing. You do not need to petition the echo, only continue the call. They want you to know they met the ones who went before and that love on that side recognizes love on this side without introductions. They want you to picture them whole and easy, moving like sunlight without weight or worry. They want you to borrow their ease for the choices that rise in you this week. They bring clarity about the path you are questioning. Choose what honors your peace and your purpose at the same time, because heaven will never ask you to trade one for the other. If the choice costs your peace, it is too expensive for your future. They raise your name again in a tone that feels like home. The sound enters every room inside you and opens windows that have been painted shut by old weather. A new current moves in, and the air itself feels honest. They place their hand over yours in a gesture that your body will remember even when your mind tries to dismiss it. The touch carries warmth like sun-colored water and it lingers where reassurance lingers best. Evidence arrives as a softness that refuses to leave when the room goes still. They tell you a small practice for the moments you miss them most. Put your hand over your heart where the drum keeps mercy, and say the words I am held even when I feel alone. Repeat until the room nods and your breathing agrees. They are proud of you in ways they cannot fit into language. Pride beams from them the way stars beam from distances that do not dim their message. You will catch yourself standing taller without remembering to try. They ask you to choose ritual without superstition. Light a simple candle as an emblem, place a photo nearby like a door, and speak what you were too shy to say when time was hurried. Then sit and listen, not for an answer to win, but for a presence that stays. They bless the work of your hands and the rest of your nights. They bless the meals you share and the laughter that ripens in unexpected places and the quiets that keep you company. They bless the threshold you are crossing even now, the one that moves you from merely surviving into beautifully living. They name the moment your healing turns a corner. It is not a parade or a broadcast, it is a private sunrise inside your chest. The light there becomes a habit, and the habit becomes a way of life that refuses to imitate the darkness you have already outgrown. They instruct the angels assigned to your path to widen the road where it narrows and to soften the earth where it hardens. They ask them to place reminders along the way, little affirmations that arrive as coincidences wearing truth. Each reminder escorts you back to the simple fact that you are loved without condition. They return finally to the message with which they began. Tonight your name is called because tonight your heart is ready to trust what it already knows. Love did not leave, love simply stepped into a larger room and learned a louder way to say your name. They step back with a smile that leaves balm in the air. Their presence thins but does not vanish, their warmth eases but does not disappear, and you are left with the certainty that you can go on without pretending you are alone. You will sleep the way the sea sleeps between tides, sure of its return. They ask you to carry this blessing forward. When you greet tomorrow, greet it like a guest you have been waiting to welcome, with calm hands and an unlocked door. The day will respond by offering you the exact kindness you offered it. They place a final whisper on your life that sounds like a vow. Faithfulness will accompany you, provision will not forget your address, and favor will recognize your face. Your story will walk with a new straightness, not because you are unbreakable, but because you are unbroken. They leave you with one more truth to treasure. Nothing you loved is lost to the dark, everything you loved is found in a brighter language that your heart is learning to speak. Tonight begins your fluency. And now the room grows quiet again, but the quiet is different, like a lake that remembers the wind and yet lies smooth. You are not emptied by this encounter, you are filled in a way that will spill into the people you meet and the choices you make. You will find yourself softer and stronger at once, which is the miracle of being loved by both heaven and earth. Walk gently into the rest of your night. Place your head on the pillow as if laying it in the hands that once braided your hair or steadied your bicycle or applauded your first small bravery. Sleep becomes a prayer you do not have to speak. Morning will arrive at the right tempo, balanced and bright. You will notice a change that requires no announcement, the kind of change that is obvious to anyone who has ever watched winter turn into spring. You will pour your coffee or open your window and marvel at the ordinary made beautiful. Carry their blessing, and let your life become its echo. Carry their kindness, and let it become your strongest influence. Carry their truth, and let it become your most trusted compass. They paint a future in warm colors and invite you to step inside. You accept with the ease of someone finally home. The day waits, and you are ready. They do not say goodbye. They say until soon, which here means each time your heart grows quiet enough to listen. And you, beloved, know exactly how to listen now. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. They guide you to a quiet doorway inside your own chest where courage waits like a coat on a peg. You reach for it without effort and feel how well it fits you now, warm in the shoulders and easy at the sleeves. You realize you are not bracing against life anymore because life is finally holding you back. They show you a map made of memories where every grief has a corresponding glow. You trace the lines with your fingertips and notice how every detour placed you near a person or promise that nourished you. The map does not scold you for the turns you took, it thanks you for traveling with a faithful heart. They remind you that home is not only a roof and a room, it is the steadiness you carry into every place your feet meet the floor. Your home grows larger each time you choose gentleness over defense and truth over performance. Tonight you add another room by receiving their message without arguing with your tenderness. They bring you back to a kitchen table from years ago where sunlight spilled like honey across the wood. You can smell coffee and hear the low music of ordinary love doing its humble work. That table still exists in the bright country where nothing good is lost, and they eat there with gratitude you can feel on your skin. They place the memory of a hug into the room and let it breathe until it becomes atmosphere. The air grows warmer, and your shoulders drop the way a field relaxes at dusk. Your nervous system learns what the soul always knew, that you are safer than your fears pretend. They speak about the conversations you hold in your mind when you try to fall asleep. They ask you to invite your thoughts to sit in a circle and pass the talking candle one at a time. When love is the moderator, every voice within becomes more reasonable and less loud. They hand you a page with 3 words written in their handwriting that your heart recognizes instantly. The words read keep showing up and something inside you salutes, quiet and strong. Showing up becomes a rhythm rather than a rule and you find yourself eager to keep its tempo. They reveal how forgiveness will arrive like weather rather than a verdict. A cloud will thin and you will notice you are breathing more easily without deciding to do so. This gentle forecast becomes a daily mercy and you learn how to live under sunnier skies. They tell you that a door of opportunity is closer than your doubt suggests. You will find it at the end of a simple habit repeated with devotion and joy. The knob will turn smoothly because your integrity has already oiled it with small, faithful acts. They nod toward a friend whose presence is a lighthouse you sometimes overlook. This friend does not announce their light, they simply remain steady through your storms and smiles. You are guided to honor them soon with words that bless them the way their constancy blesses you. They invite you into a small ritual for the next 7 evenings. Light a quiet flame, breathe like someone who trusts the room, and read aloud a single paragraph from the story of your life that you usually hide. The paragraph loses its power to frighten you when it tastes the honest air. They ask you to treat your plans like seedlings in a window box rather than trophies in a case. Plans enjoy sunlight, water, and patience, and they respond poorly to pride, panic, and comparison. Your window faces the right direction now, and your daily care will be enough. They return a memory that used to sting and let you hold it long enough to notice its new softness. The edges that once cut now feel like velvet, and you rest your palm there with surprising ease. This is how you know healing has moved from rumor to reality. They speak gently about the one who misunderstood you and built a house out of that misunderstanding. You do not need to live there or set it on fire. You only need to walk by with compassion and continue home. Your feet remember the way when your heart refuses the invitation to argue. They tell you that celebration will become a discipline you practice on ordinary Tuesdays. You will learn to bless the small wins with sincere joy and the small losses with sincere grace. This habit will stack like bricks into a shelter that storms respect. They place an unseen crown on your head that is made of responsibility and ease in equal measure. Responsibility does not bruise you anymore because you wear it with clarity and rest. Ease does not dilute you anymore because you carry it with focus and gratitude. They reveal a truth about your voice that surprises you at first. Your voice is not merely sound, it is a promise that life uses to steady others. When you speak from the center rather than the edges, even silence agrees with you. They guide you to lay down an old self-image that fit like a tight shoe. You thank it for walking with you as far as it could, and then you leave it with tenderness where it belongs. Your stride changes almost immediately, and people notice the quiet confidence of your steps. They ask you to bless your future finances with wisdom rather than worry. Wisdom organizes generosity and protection at the same table, and both leave satisfied. Your resources become instruments of kindness directed by purpose, not panic. They remind you that the world still needs your specific kindness the way a garden still needs its specific rain. You are not a general remedy, you are a precise medicine for particular lives. Your presence heals in ways you cannot measure because love rarely sends receipts. They show you how to listen to your body as if it were an oracle that speaks in sensations. Warmth says yes and tightness says wait, and you grow fluent without superstition. This language keeps you from bargains with your peace and guides you toward decisions that sing when you make them. They stand near your work and brush it with favor the way dawn brushes a city with light. Excellence begins to feel like play again because pressure steps back and wonder steps forward. You build with joy rather than fear, and foundations formed in joy outlast everything built in panic. They speak of reconciliation that will arrive without drama. Two paths will curve toward each other like rivers that always meant to meet, and neither must apologize for its journey. Gratitude will greet you both at the confluence and show you where to sit. They lead you into a memory of laughter that made you lean on the table and wipe your eyes. They tell you that laughter is a doorway, not a distraction, because joy knows how to carry revelation without breaking it. You honor revelation best when your cheeks remember how to glow. They revisit your deepest loss with a light that does not interrogate. The light is interested rather than invasive, warm rather than white, and it coaxes the memory to tell the rest of the story where love kept succeeding. You hear that part now and breathe with a relief you thought you would never know. They ask you to trust the timing of the introduction that will matter next. The person who appears will recognize your steadiness first and your talent second, and the order will protect you. Partnership built on steadiness travels farther than partnership built on spectacle. They nod toward a room you have not entered because you feared its echoes. You open the door tonight and discover the acoustics favor truth over shame. Your story sounds better in that room because it stops performing and starts belonging. They place a gentle instruction on the threshold of your next morning. Move slowly, speak kindly, and choose with peace even when speed seems fashionable. The day will keep pace with your courage when your courage sets the pace with care. They name the month ahead as a corridor of calm expansion. Opportunities arrive like guests who wipe their feet and hang their coats before sitting down with respect. You notice how much easier it is to welcome what you no longer need to chase. They bless your sleep with the kind of rest that repairs rather than merely pauses. Your dreams will sweep the corners of your mind and collect what no longer serves you. You will wake with a clarity that feels like clean glass between you and the world. They affirm that your boundaries are not walls against love, they are trellises where good love grows straight. You will feel the difference between attention that drains and attention that waters. You will choose the water with a smile that answers to wisdom. They ask you to honor your ancestors by living the joy they could not always access. You carry their strength without carrying their storms, and that is not betrayal, it is fulfillment. Their hope breathes easier in you, and you feel it as courage that shows up early. They show you a scene that will happen soon in a place you think of as ordinary. A stranger will say a sentence that lands like blessing, and you will know heaven arranged it with a wink. You will carry that sentence in your pocket like a warm stone and touch it when you need steadiness. They speak softly about the child within you who still waits for permission to be fully alive. You kneel to that child with compassion and offer your adult hand with gentle authority. Together you stand and walk toward light that never asks you to be smaller. They reveal that loss taught you a form of seeing others cannot fake. You can identify the door in a person that is stuck and the window in a room that wants opening. Your presence becomes the hinge and the latch, and people breathe better when you are near. They ask you to treat your creativity like a river that deserves banks but not cages. Give it time, tools, and trust, and watch how it meanders into masterpieces without announcing itself. The river knows where it is going because the sea inside you calls it by name. They bring your attention to a promise you forgot you made to yourself on a long-ago sunrise. The promise was to live as if joy were your inheritance instead of your reward. Tonight you reinstate that promise with a quiet yes that heaven records with delight. They surround you with the subtle scent your loved one always carried, not to tease you but to anchor the reality of this communion. The room answers with a hush that feels like reverence and welcome. You do not strain to believe because belief is already relaxing in your bones. They tell you that peace will now be your default and not your exception. You will still meet challenges, but you will not meet them alone or unprepared. Peace stands beside you like a wise elder who knows every exit and every entrance. They describe a scenario where a long-standing knot unravels through a single act of kindness you did not plan. The relief that follows will feel like a window opening in a crowded house on a perfect day. You will remember the exact angle of the light and the exact ease in your chest. They affirm the arrival of supportive voices that speak your name with care. These voices do not flatter, they fortify, and you will know them by the calm they leave in their wake. You will answer to your true name more often and to your old names less and less. They seal this chapter with a blessing that travels farther than geography. It goes with you into commutes and quiets and conversations and decisions. It keeps working while you sleep and keeps smiling while you try. They place a final assurance in your hands that glows like a coal meant for warmth, not for burning. Hold it when the room feels colder than it is and watch how quickly the temperature returns to kindness. You will become the one who carries warmth into places that forgot the sun. They step back again but not away, present the way a melody remains after the music stops. You can hum it whenever you want and the full orchestra of heaven will quietly join in. Your life becomes the song, and love becomes the refrain that never grows old. They leave you standing taller in your own story, equipped for the next right thing and the next right rest. Your eyes know where to look, your hands know what to hold, and your heart knows whom to trust. You proceed with grace that looks like light, learning your name again and again. They close the night with a vow that cannot be broken by distance or time. We are here, we are near, and we are not finished loving you. You sleep beneath that vow as under a soft, eternal roof, and you wake beneath it as under a sky that was always yours. They open a corridor of memory where farewell becomes a blessing rather than a bruise. You step through and feel the floor of time turn soft beneath your feet. The past does not chase you anymore because it finally understands where you are going. They place a soft radiance on the chair you favor as if to mark it holy. When you sit, your spine remembers a posture your heart always wanted. Ease climbs each vertebra like a gentle sunrise that refuses to hurry and still arrives on time. They point at the window and the thin silver of night that rests along its edge. You notice how the dark is not empty but alive with quiet promises. It is a sky that keeps its voice low so your soul can keep its voice true. They speak your name in a tone that rinses worry from its corners. The syllables return to their original brightness like stones pulled from a river and warmed in your hands. You hear yourself as you were meant to be heard and it steadies the room. They guide your attention to the rhythm of your day and the music beneath your habits. You find a beat that belongs to purpose and kindness instead of urgency and defense. That beat teaches your choices to dance without stepping on your peace. They return you to the small shelf where you keep mementos that matter more than their size. A key, a ticket stub, a bracelet with a story that bends toward light. Every object becomes a lighthouse that remembers your safe return. They set a gentle practice in your palm for mornings to come. Before anything noisy begins, place your hand over your heart and greet the day like a friend who kept watch while you slept. Gratitude will enter like a guest who already knows where the kettle is kept. They remind you to read the weather inside your body with affection. Tightness asks for breath and warmth, not a lecture about being strong. You listen, and your strength becomes the kind that remembers softness. They bless the boundary you have drawn around your attention. Not every knock deserves an open door and not every voice deserves a chair at your table. Selectivity becomes an act of love for what you are building. They lead you to the threshold of a conversation you have delayed. The words arrive without thorns and you are surprised by the tenderness they carry. Connection grows in that softness like seedlings under a late rain. They bring a memory of someone who believed in you before evidence arrived. That faith still works on your behalf like a note pinned inside your coat. You touch it and remember that destiny and devotion are old friends. They suggest a gentle rearrangement of your space as a sign to your spirit. Move the chair toward the light, place the plant where it can listen to the window, and put the photograph where it can listen to your smile. Rooms learn from the people who love them and begin to love back. They name a habit you will outgrow this month with less effort than you fear. The habit of apologizing for your brightness falls away like winter air leaving a field in spring. Sunshine fits you and no longer asks for permission to stay. They show you the path of a message already on its way to you. It travels through a person who carries calm like a lantern and generosity like a pocket full of small mercies. When it arrives, you will feel seen without being examined. They turn your gaze toward your work and the dignity it has always asked for. Excellence starts to feel like play again because pressure takes off its heavy coat. The hours respond by becoming companions rather than hurdles. They help you bless the season you are leaving without bitterness. Gratitude removes the splinters from the memories and refuses to hand them to your future. You walk on without limping and the road agrees with your stride. They acknowledge the ache that sometimes shows up unannounced. You give it tea and a seat but not the whole house. It understands the new rules and thanks you for the hospitality that does not harm you. They reveal that your patience has been working behind the curtain like a quiet artisan. It has been carving a doorway that fits your stature and your spirit. You step through and notice how perfectly it matches your name. They promise that companionship is approaching that does not confuse chaos with chemistry. The presence that comes next will breathe like a harbor rather than a storm. You will recognize it by the way your shoulders remember to rest. They instruct you to speak kindly to your dream before you speak confidently about it. Kindness protects the roots while confidence enjoys the bloom. The balance keeps you steady when winds pretend to be opinions. Archangel Michael says, "The time ahead opens like a gentle book written in your mother tongue, and every page matches the courage you have been practicing in secret. Walk line by line and let your breath be the punctuation that keeps you honest." There is no rush to reach the last chapter because the story is the sanctuary. They place a reminder where your keys rest and where your shoes wait. Before you step out, choose presence over performance and clarity over noise. The world answers differently when you arrive as yourself. They whisper directions for a generosity that protects you while blessing others. Give from the cup and not from the cracks, give from the overflow and not from the wound. The gift will travel farther when it is not carrying your exhaustion. They bring your attention to the sound of your laughter and its healing assignment. Your laughter knows the route to rooms that grief could not reach. When it returns, let it lead and watch what softens. They ask you to forgive the calendar for not matching your imagination. Heaven keeps a kinder schedule and it is now matching your readiness with its resources. Delays become alignments and you feel the relief of right timing. They lift the curtain on a small opportunity that becomes a large doorway. It will not announce itself with trumpets, it will smile from an email or a hallway or a chance hello. Follow the ease and let diligence keep pace beside you. They teach you a blessing for your name that you can speak at thresholds. Say it quietly, the way one would water a plant at dawn, and feel your identity stand taller. The room will meet you with the respect your spirit keeps choosing. They invite you to practice endings with grace so beginnings do not carry your regret. Close what needs closing with a bow and an honest thank you. The next door opens more easily when the last door is honored. They roll back the weight of self-judgment that sat like a stone on your chest. In its place they set a candle that turns your inner room gold. Decisions look different in that light and fear loses its favorite corner. They tell you how rest can be loyal to your calling rather than opposed to it. Rest refuels the courage that your purpose requires and refuses every accusation of laziness. You begin to trust days that move at the speed of love. They guide your eyes to the kindness of your own hands. These hands have carried groceries and grief, promises and prayers, and they are still faithful. You bless them and feel how quickly they bless you back. They name a place in nature that will greet you with recognition soon. Perhaps a tree that holds the color of your hope or a shoreline that remembers your footsteps. Go there and let it teach you how to breathe again. They speak of reconciliation with your reflection. Mirrors begin to tell the truth instead of repeating old gossip from fear. You see strength without armor and beauty without bargain. They affirm the arrival of resources that do not make you smaller to receive them. Provision becomes partnership rather than charity. You take your seat at that table with ease and gratitude. They hand you a sentence to keep in your pocket for complicated hours. I am not late for my own life. The words clean the window between you and the day and you move through with clarity. They counsel you to gather your remaining goodbyes and give them a gentle ceremony. Not for drama and not for closure as a performance, but for honor that soothes. Love stays when farewells are blessed. They place a future memory on your horizon like a lantern hung early. You can feel its warmth even now, and it draws you forward without strain. Anticipation becomes an ally instead of a thief. They bring a delicate courage to your throat where truth will soon need a home. Words arrive dressed in compassion and measured by wisdom. You speak and watch peace pull up a chair. They appoint wonder as you follow its gentle instructions and notice joy waving from ordinary corners. They honor the ways you stayed when leaving felt easier. That staying built muscles the world cannot name and endurance the world cannot price. Those muscles lift the next dream without shaking. They assure you that your loved one's nearness is not imagination wearing a costume. It is love refusing the smallness of distance and the finality of endings. It is presence choosing you again because you keep choosing truth. They send a breeze across your memory that smells like a season you both loved. The scent locates 1,000 little scenes and returns them without sadness. Gratitude wraps each one and places it gently on the shelf you prepared earlier. They invite you to bless your table before the meal and your rest before the night. These blessings do not require ceremony to work, they require sincerity to root. You offer them and your home begins to hum at a kinder frequency. They reveal that courage and tenderness can sit at the same desk and write the same letter. The letter is your life and it is addressed to the future you promised to meet. The stamp is joy and the postmark is now. They ease your shoulders with the certainty that you are not missing your moment. Your moment found you and then waited until you trusted your own yes. That trust is here now and the day responds with a nod. They line the path ahead with choices that honor your wholeness. You can say yes without betraying yourself and no without abandoning love. Balance becomes the language your feet speak as they move. They place a final seal on tonight's visitation that cannot be broken by doubt. The seal does not shout, it glows, and its warmth outlasts mood and weather. You carry it into sleep like a lantern you can set on the bedside of your heart. They promise to keep speaking in the ways you can most easily receive. In songs and colors, in timely sentences from strangers, in quiet knowings that land like feathers. You will not have to hunt for reassurance because reassurance knows your address. They escort you gently to rest, the kind that closes the eyes without closing the soul. Morning already waits with a smile it learned from heaven tonight. You step toward it with a courage that looks like peace and a peace that sounds like your true name. They open the morning like an envelope sealed with tenderness and patience. Light steps into your room and introduces itself as clarity wearing comfort. Your chest answers with a quiet yes that feels like a key finally fitting its intended lock. They guide you to notice the small symphony of ordinary grace. The kettle hums like a friend, fabric brushes your skin like reassurance, and the floor beneath your feet offers a steady handshake. Every simple thing conspires to tell your nervous system that life is a companion. They speak of the letter that never got written and write it now through your breathing. The first line says you did your best with the tools you had. The second line says better tools are arriving because your hands are ready. They invite you to treat the day like soft clay that listens to gentle fingers. You press your intentions into it without force and watch shape appear from kindness. What emerges is not a statue of control but a vessel for goodness. They bless the conversations that have to happen and the silences that heal them. Words will walk in measured steps and pauses will hold their coats. Connection learns your rhythm and answers with the same respect. They call your attention to the strength that never advertised itself. The strength that held you together in grocery aisles, in waiting rooms, in traffic lights that remembered how to glow green again. That strength gets a name today, and the name is dignity. They ask you to gather your doubts like visiting relatives and offer them tea. Doubt sits more politely when hospitality leads the room. In that calm, courage takes the chair with the best view and smiles. They show you the image of a bridge you built inside without realizing it. It spans the gap between who you were and who you are becoming, and it never wobbles. Each plank is a small choice you kept, sanded smooth by perseverance. They present a gentle correction that lands like a kiss on your forehead. You do not need to audition for belonging any longer. You belong where your peace belongs, and your peace belongs with truth. They place your hand on your own heartbeat and ask you to memorize its mercy. This rhythm accompanied you through storms and celebrations without demanding credit. It is the proof that life has always been on your side. They pour clean water over your memories and let the excess of old shame run down the drain. What remains is the essential story that knows how to bless the road ahead. The past becomes an ally when truth washes it without harshness. They draw a map in soft chalk across your next decisions. Paths brighten when you choose them for love and dim when you choose them for fear. Your feet learn the difference and refuse to forget. They bless your workspace so that tasks turn into offerings rather than obligations. Time cooperates when your intention is clear and your pace is honest. Deadlines nod respectfully at a soul that refuses to be rushed into unkindness. They whisper the melody you carried as a child before the world tuned you to worry. That melody returns as confidence without costume. You hum it softly and watch the day adjust around your tone. They bring a memory of the way your loved one used to tilt their head when listening. That tilt becomes a posture you adopt for yourself, a stance of curiosity that heals. You listen to your life with their patience and discover answers hiding in plain sight. They encourage you to treat rest as a sacred meeting and not a guilty interruption. Rest returns with gifts that productivity never thought to bring. Creativity finds you there with its shoes off and its notebook open. They bless a future meal that gathers good people around your table. Laughter will pour like a bright drink and stories will braid together like friendly rivers. The room will remember this evening as a gentle turning point. They align your finances with wisdom that is both generous and grounded. You set aside enough for tomorrow without starving today. Your spending begins to mirror your values and your values begin to glow. They help you fold away the costume of resilience you wore when survival demanded performance. Real resilience looks like softness that refuses to harden, and like boundaries that refuse to bruise. You wear it lightly and it fits. They escort you back to a dream you parked for safekeeping. The engine still knows your touch and the road still knows your name. You drive at a speed that respects awe and makes room for wonder. They speak into the rooms where you once felt misunderstood. Air clears when you stop narrating yourself for approval and begin radiating yourself with sincerity. The right ears arrive because the right voice is finally present. They show you how forgiveness can be a daily hygiene rather than a grand event. Small rinses keep the heart clean between storms. You feel lighter without making announcements about it. They invite you to place a small bowl near your door and fill it with gratitude each evening. One word, one memory, one kindness placed there like a gem. Over time the bowl becomes a treasury that anchors your spirit. They turn your attention toward the open sky and call it a mirror for potential. You do not need to fill it, only to face it with readiness. The vastness answers gently and your courage rises without strain. They step into your quiet and hand you 3 practices for the week. Speak slowly when your heart speeds, walk outside when your thoughts crowd, and choose nourishment before noise. These practices are simple enough to work and strong enough to last. They bless your inner child with a playground made of safety. Swings of creativity, slides of delight, and soft ground for mistakes that do not punish. The child laughs and your adult self relaxes by association. They place a ribbon of compassion around your regrets so they stop unraveling your days. Regret becomes teacher instead of tyrant. Lessons land, life softens, forward motion resumes. They send a messenger in the shape of a sentence you will overhear. The sentence will land like a feather on water and make rings that expand for hours. You will know which way to walk because the ring closest to your feet will point like an arrow. They lighten the suitcase you carry into conversations. You enter with presence rather than history and the room responds with relief. Authenticity travels farther than defense and arrives with better company. They bless your sleep so that dreams untangle knots without turning them into storms. You wake with useful clarity instead of loud echoes. Morning coffee tastes like possibility poured into a cup. They remind you that gentleness is not the opposite of power but its best expression. Power that is kind enough to heal and strong enough to protect. You become fluent in that expression and the world takes note. They teach your calendar to honor your soul the way a good tailor honors a body. Measurements matter, seams matter, comfort matters. You stop squeezing sacredness into leftover spaces and start building your week around it. They anoint your voice with truth that travels softly and lands firmly. You do not need volume when your words carry alignment. Agreements arrive without arguments and doors open without pushing. They wipe the fog from a mirror inside you where your calling waited, patient and bright. You see the outline with more clarity than ever before. The outline steps forward until it lives as your daily posture. They bring a scent that reminds you of a warm afternoon long ago, a scent that means safety. The room inhales it and your shoulders exhale years. You belong in this ease and it belongs in you. They guide you to bless your future friendships with reciprocity. Give and receive with the same grace and let balance be the poem you share. Only relationships that honor this music get a key to your house. They place a small courage in your pocket for errands and elevators, for emails and edges. You touch it when nerves speak too loudly and it answers with steadiness. Mundane moments become chapels when courage accompanies them. They whisper that your loved one laughs when you laugh and rests when you rest, a companionship without interruption. This nearness does not demand ritual to be real. It asks only for awareness and welcomes your joy as much as your tears. They align the work of your hands with the rest of your heart. Tasks stop chewing your peace because you stop feeding them panic. Purpose begins to taste like nourishment rather than obligation. They offer you a blessing for weathered places. May endurance soften without breaking, and may hope stand without straining. The weathered places nod and turn warm to the touch. They lift a lantern to show you a door you labeled too late. The label peels back and reveals right on time. You step through and the room greets you as if it had been waiting with lights already on. They settle a clarity over your finances that makes generosity joyful. You give with wisdom and receive with humility, and the exchange keeps its brightness. Money learns manners in your presence and behaves with grace. They draw your attention to a craft you love but set aside. Thread and wood, paint and paper, spice and soil, code and song. You return to it and feel your mind return to you. They invite you to walk a familiar street as if for the first time. Notice the tree that has been practicing patience and the brick that has been practicing strength. Gratitude rehearses with everything that lasts, and you join the chorus. They bless the next door you close so it closes quietly without slamming. Closure becomes respect and not revenge. The latch clicks like a small amen that does not require a stage. They pull a chair for courage at the table where your plans are eating. Courage eats slowly and smiles often. Panic learns better manners and stops shouting with its mouth full. They remind you to store celebration for rainy days the way families store preserves. Joy keeps well when sealed in gratitude and shared in portions. You open the jar on a hard afternoon and spread sweetness on your hour. They teach you to match your pace to your peace. Fast when joy is light on your feet, slow when wisdom asks for detail. The path applauds either way because presence is the point. They press a seal on your evening the way the moon presses silver on a river. The seal reads kept and your heart believes it without argument. You rest under that promise and rise with its echo. Archangel Michael says, "Your name is safe in heaven and your future is safe in your own honest hands, which now move with light and purpose." The path shines enough for the next few steps, and the next few steps are all that sovereignty requires. Walk with the knowledge that love is not behind you calling you back, it is before you calling you forward. They close the day with a final blessing that fits like a loved coat in a new season. May your hours be arranged by kindness, may your choices be held by courage, may your rest be guarded by peace. The room quiets, your breath steadies, and the night learns your true name again.